All right, let's dive right in. The S&P 500 has just smashed through another record high, and now pretty much every investor out there is wrestling with this one massive 7,000-point question. So is this it? Is this the absolute peak we've all been kind of nervously waiting for? Or are we just getting started on the next big run-up? I mean, that's the dilemma, right? It's what everyone with money in the market is trying to figure out right now.
And, you can totally see why people are asking. Just look at this number, 9. We've had 9 straight months of gains. That's an incredible run. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How long can this party possibly last?
Okay, so to get some answers, we've got to dig a little deeper. We need to look at the anatomy of this bull run. Because, yeah, the trend has been up, 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 but the actual climb? Oh, it has been anything but smooth. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at the headlines about record highs, you're missing the real story. And that story is all about volatility. We're talking about these really nerve-wracking drops that have tested the faith of even the most experienced investors out there.
So let's look at the actual evidence, right? Since just last November, the market has had four separate, really violent drops. I call them whiplashes because that's what they felt like. Each one was so sharp and so sudden, it seriously felt like, okay, this is it, the big one.
And you know what happened every single time? The bears came roaring out, shouting from the rooftops, "This is it, the top is finally in." But then, what happened? Each and every time, right when the fear was at its absolute peak, the market didn't just bounce back. No, it soared to brand new highs. It's wild. So this leads us to the real mystery here. What is this hidden force? What's the unseen engine that keeps stepping in, absorbing these huge shocks, and just relentlessly pushing the market higher and higher?
Well, I think it's time we unmask the culprit, don't you? Let's pull back the curtain and take a look at the market's hidden engine, because there is one single factor that explains, well, everything we've just talked about.
Okay, so this really gets to the heart of it. There's this myth out there, this story you hear all the time, that this bull market is just too old, that it has to die of old age soon. But the reality? That's just not how it works. Age has absolutely nothing to do with it. This market is being fueled by one simple thing: liquidity, with a capital L. So what exactly do we mean by liquidity? Think of it like a giant tide of cash. It's money being pumped into the financial system by central banks all over the world. And this isn't random. It's being done specifically to help manage these huge mountains of government debt. But all that cash, it has to go somewhere. And its absolute favorite place to go? You guessed it, the stock market.
This right here, this is the modern market cycle. It's a simple but incredibly powerful feedback loop that's basically been running on repeat since 2008. Step 1, governments spend way more than they take in, creating massive debt. Step 2, central banks print money, create liquidity to manage all that debt. And step 3, all that new cash floods into the market looking for a return and pushes prices way up. Simple as that. And the effect of this cycle, it's just staggering. Look at this number, 31. Since 2009, we've had 31 pullbacks of 5% or more. Think about that. 31 different times when it felt like the ground was shaking and things were about to fall apart. And here's the kicker, the punchline. Every single one of those 31 times turned out to be a fantastic buying opportunity. But why? Well, because that constant tide of liquidity we talked about, it's been acting like a giant safety net under the market. Every time there's a dip, a wave of new cash comes rushing in to buy it up. Okay, so this all brings us to probably the single most important takeaway from all of this. If you remember one thing, make it this. There's a simple rule you need to know about how these bull markets really end. And here it is. It's a famous saying for a reason. Bull markets do not die of old age. They don't just get tired and run out of steam because they've been going on for a while. That is 100% a myth. They are murdered, and the culprit, it's always the same. It's the central banks. A bull market ends when, and only when, the central banks make a conscious decision to turn off that cash spigot, when they stop the flow of liquidity and start actively pulling money out of the system. All right, so if we accept that rule, what does it tell us about the path ahead? How can we use this framework to figure out what might be coming down the pike as we look towards, say, 2026?
Well, to answer that, you have to follow the money. You have to watch where the liquidity is coming from. And right now, on the global stage, there are really two big players in this game: the United States and China. Their central bank policies are what really move the needle for that global tide of cash. So let's take a look at the dashboard right now. What's it telling us? It's a bit of a mixed picture, but it's really revealing. First, global liquidity growth is slowing down. But, and this is the key part, it's still positive. Money is still being added. We're seeing the US start to pull back a bit or taper its injections, but China is still a huge source of cash. And most importantly, the market itself is basically betting that this easy money policy is going to continue. So what's the forecast then? Well, if you're just looking at the liquidity picture, the most likely path is that the main uptrend continues. But, and it's a big but, as that growth in liquidity slows down, we should absolutely expect more of those sharp, violent drops we've already seen. The ride up is probably going to get even bumpier from here. So we kind of end up right about where we started, but now with a totally different way of looking at it. The market's engine, that liquidity, it's still running. So the really crucial question for you, for every investor, isn't if it's going to stop. It's watching who has their hand on the switch, and now you know exactly who to watch.